Esports Podcast, Noun. A 2-hour-long video full of banter and nonsense where the guests are only introduced halfway through and the outro makes you think your internet's died. Huh.
Right, I'm here for another episode of Reflections, and this one is going to be with Chronicle, who is obviously a player for FNATIC in VALORANT, but we will get into a bunch of different things about his career. Chronicle, the first place I would actually start is very simple, which is I'm used to in VALORANT, obviously a lot of my interviews have been with North American people because they speak English like me, and nearly all the North American people I know in VALORANT have, most of them, just a direct Counter-Strike background, or some sort of FPS. Maybe they played Fortnite, or some other, maybe, I don't know, Team Fortress or Overwatch or something. Maybe they played some game, but I notice on all the sites they never list you as having anything. But if I look at your age, surely you've played, you're Russian, surely you played Counter-Strike or Dota or something. Do you have some background in another game before you got to VALORANT?
To be honest, I had only sports background before VALORANT. I was a swimmer. I was competing professionally for almost 10 years, and overall I didn't like it, but I loved to play games. And mostly it was actually single-player games rather than multiplayer.
Right.
But other than that, I actually played CS a little bit, like around 500 hours, maybe right now more, since I was playing sometimes in off-season just for fun with friends. But other than that, I never planned to go into esports, and I just never had a feeling that I'm gonna be in that scene at all, just because how the life was going at that point for me. It was probably zero chances until 2020 came in with the VALORANT announcement, and it also because of the COVID, it also changed my life a little bit.
Oh, right. So if that didn't happen, maybe you wouldn't be pro now.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
the thing is, just COVID happened. I instantly started to play games more since I couldn't study physically. I had only remote sessions, and also same was for sports. I couldn't go swim just because everything was closed, and that's how I am probably right now in esports. But yeah, if we talk about backgrounds, I obviously I fell in love with shooters. And I played both single player and multiplayer, different genres also, such as tactical FPS, CS, even Rainbow Six, or Battle Royales, Apex, Warzone. Actually, Warzone helped me more maybe in the esports right now than any other discipline. But yeah, it's just how it happened. I just played a lot of stuff, not that much, but at the end I just came into VALORANT and I got spotted almost immediately.
Do you think there's any connection to your time when you were competing in swimming in terms of your mentality in esports? It seems like you're a pretty diligent person who thinks you have to put in the hours, right?
I mean, I do believe right now that my experience from swimming helped me to be the better person, at least for now. Just because I think I have a very strong mentality, which allows me to have a consistent improvement. Yeah, I mean, I obviously can have a rough times. Sometimes I'm as a human being, for example, I can be kind of let down a little bit just because that's how the life goes. You obviously can't be always happy or always on a 100% focus. But I think I'm less tilted, or actually I'm never tilted as anyone else. I actually believe in that just because I can't allow myself to be tilted in the game. I never being angry on my teammates. I never allow it to myself. If I have some questions, for example, in practice when we're practicing, obviously, I always trying to do it natural and not trying to blame anyone. So it also came from sports because I believe that that's the right way to actually improve. And that's simply it. I think it's just everyone who was in sports before have a great mentality overall for a team. They might be kind of less passionate, they can be a little bit more angry or emotional, but still they have a pretty good discipline for being in esports.
Because I actually saw in an interview, this is a couple of years ago, you said something quite interesting where you were talking about how you had two mentalities to compete. And one of the things you said was, even though on the one hand, for example, you said something that I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to with all the different agents you've picked and all the roles you've played, which is that on the one hand, you don't really care like necessarily how you do if the team wins, which is obviously the great team mentality people want to hear about. But you also said that what makes it complicated is you've got this other mentality that on the other hand, whether the team wins or loses, you also do want to play your absolute best and show like how good you are as a player. So have you got that drive in you? Have you got a drive to sort of be excellent?
I always had the drive. It's still the same. I think it's actually a bad thing for me rather than a good thing, just because sometimes I can't really focus on the proper stuff. Just if, for example, I need to do some strategical stuff or I need to help my team more, and sometimes obviously like a human factor comes in, I want to show that I'm also a great performer because I know that I can do that. Like I have all the abilities for showing good performance, but sometimes it's just like how my role goes in. It's, for example, on my role, which I was playing before Leo stepped off from our roster, it was mostly initiator flashes. And after that, they were coming other roles, but it doesn't matter. And on initiator flashes, I mean, if you say to CS experience, it's really hard to transfer to CS, for example. But it's so hard to actually carry on this role just because in Valorant, it's very important to use util sometimes to actually win. It's like in CS, but I think sometimes in Valorant it goes in a different grade. And when you're using all your util on your teammates and they're struggling after that, it's probably the chance you'll win is heavily reduced, I would say. Yeah, I mean, it's just like so hard to win sometimes. You actually don't know what to do with it. But now, when I just came to Initiator Recon, like I'm just like playing on Sova right now, most of the time, it actually feels good because I started to win more clutches. I actually started to play more individually, and I love it. I feel like I have much more impact on the game, and I enjoy it a lot. Obviously, if, for example, Leo comes in back, I will definitely give this role back, and I'll play my role, just because I feel I can do a better job with it. And Leo is much better on Initiator like Sova, Fate. But yeah, I mean, I always dream to perform as consistent as possible, and obviously consistently good, not consistently bad. But it's not possible every time, I can actually imagine.
Along these lines, because as you say, I can get what you mean by that. Obviously, if you're playing a role that facilitates others and sets them up, if you set them up and they don't get the kills in the game, then you're not going to win the game. You can't hard carry out of that role, as opposed to if someone was like old school 2021 Jet, like they can sort of just do whatever they want by themselves. They can just play themselves into the game. Here's my question to you: is why does Chronicle in general never seem to have an interest in being the duelist? Like, obviously, look, you've certainly played like the Rays and stuff over the years, and there was the time when you played Chamber, obviously, when it was super strong. Why do you not go towards that role? I feel like you want a more all-round game or something.
I think it's purely because of the team. In Gambit, when it was like kind of the start of my career, I was starting with already with initiatives because we had better duelists at that point. It was Defo and in some way Shadows, and they were playing duelists for 2 years. After we kicked Defo from the team, I actually started to play duelists more. I was Jet main, I was playing on Chamber, and I was performing good in the European League. Not that good to qualify for every event, but I think it's more about team issues we had before. Because for me, biggest achievement, which I almost like have as an internal joke in my teams, like when I was playing Jet, I diffed cNed in one of the matches against him.
Okay.
So that definitely proves, like at that point, I was diffing cNed that I'm definitely still good on duelists, and you can put me there if you want.
Sure.
But also it comes to the point that I already have so many roles, and the way how you need to play them is so different. It makes it so difficult and I would say complex to actually combine everything, because when you're transferring like in the match from absolutely passive support role to very aggressive duelist one, you will definitely have some problems no matter how good you are. And that's what I had before, I think. Now it's much less, But before it was like I could play very crazy on initiator like I was Duellist, even though I shouldn't do like that. So that's where like the stuff from overpeaking just came in, just because like I feel sometimes that I have to do this stuff because sometimes I'm just forgetting like what my role actually is, and that's how we came in. The same goes for FNATIC, for example. Right now we have Derke, which is obviously one of the best duelists in the world, and he's definitely better at playing this one rather than just playing support ones, because he have obviously much more and better experience how to entry and how to make an advantages out of that rather than me, since I didn't play Duelist that much. And yeah, that's just I think that's the only reason.
Since you're so known for playing all these different agents over the years, depending on what the meta is that also how you decide sort of what your role is based on what else is in the team? Because people will see there's times, I mean, you've gone between initiate control, you played Sentinels at times, you played the Duelist. Like, are you doing it mainly based on like who is in your team? Like you say, if someone is better at that role, do you do it based on if you want to play the agent? Is there a mix?
Yes, I think it's also just like to clarify, it's not like my decision, for example, to play on some roles. It's obviously like the team decision, and mostly it's a coach's one, and they're analyzing this shit. And I think they understand that some people are obviously showing better performance on different roles, and like when you have me or like some different flexes in the roster, it allows you to forget that some players are actually not that good on some different roles, because you have a guy who obviously will feel on a decent level for what you want to do. And obviously I'm that guy. It helps them a lot, just because if they want to put alpha on ISO or just any other duelist like we have on Split with Raze, I can just go to Cypher and play literally the same or maybe even better, because in some ways, like for example, like making setups or just being an anchor, sometimes I can do better because I'm not overheating, or like I just know when to properly pick. But at the same time, he might be better because he obviously shoots better. Like he can focus on individual much more better than me, and he can just do some insane kills. But it's just about balancing some stuff. And I think we right now in FNATIC doing it good, just because how good we are on a different roles, everyone, how we balanced it. And I think everyone right now is comfortable with it. Like, again, Alpha is playing on some Duelist, Derke is playing on Duelist. Hero right now also he's a second flex in our team. He also feels up now, and he plays on two different roles, and he also feels good. And Jake, obviously, he's a main smoker and he remains the same, but he's also in his comfortable zone. And I can't say even more. Like everything is fine for us, and that part that I can just play every agent for them, even some crazy one like Deadlock, it's definitely good.
I saw that you also have a background playing chess. Do you actually think that has anything to do with how you think about Valorant? Because I mean, I do think the biggest difference I know coming from Counter-Strike was, you think when you come to the game, oh, it's just like anime CS, but then you realize like actually with all the abilities and the comps, there is actually a lot more. You have to almost like before you go into the fight, whereas in Counter-Strike, maybe you know where the person's set up and you're going to take a duel against them. In this case, you have to know things like what agent are they, what ability do they have, what ult, what utility. It's like, I feel like there's a lot more strategical elements in some ways in Valorant. Do you think chess thinking helps you at all?
First of all, yes, I think chess helps a lot of people. I think everyone who is in esports should try to actually play chess a little bit and try to include it in their routine. Just because it actually improves your brain in some way. You can actually take some very important keys from a chess, such as understanding the situation. Since in chess you see the board from above, and you can actually analyze over that. Some ways of analysis comes to also esports games, such as Valorant and CS. You can analyze what happens on minimap and do a proper, better decisions based on it.
Right.
That's what I like the most in actually playing chess. I stopped doing that, and in some way I regret it, because I think if I'll continue, maybe it will be better. but it's hard to put it right now in my routine. So I will try to consider it for the next year. And the second thing about the strategical stuff, and overall, is Valorant harder in this way? I would say yes and no. It's very complex, just because, first of all, CS, I think almost every professional player, especially on tier 1, he just remembers what's probably gonna go after, when they're creating their plan, they probably remember what the opponent or like whoever, what they're gonna do against you. It's like purely kind of scripts. Like right now, it feels like a game of some scripts.
Okay.
Like, because the game is not that variable, and everyone just remembers everything. For some people, it's boring, but I'm actually fine with that. It's actually it's a way it's very good. It's very cool. And in Valorant, it's impossible. The way how every util can be combined with any other util makes it impossible. That's where the game sense comes in. And I think for Valorant, it's very important to have a big brain, actual big brain to compete. You also need a very good individual. Like you actually need to aim very good to be on the same level. But game sense is also very important. You can't just only shoot and win, because I know many players in Valorant who had insane aim. They can't do like Wood, because I believe Wood, Rians, our FNATIC players, everyone who is right now on the top of stats, they're doing good because they're both individually great and they can actually think in game. They don't have to be babysitted to actually do proper decisions, and that's why they're very good. And that's the main difference maybe between CS and Valorant. In CS, you have to remember all the stuff and use this knowledge to actually win the games. In Valorant, you need to feel the game, and after that, you can win the games. And that's how it works right now.
When I did an interview with Durka, he actually said that when he was first starting to play with you, even before you were in FNATIC, that one of the things he noticed about you is you have an insane memory, he said. Do you have a really good memory for the game and things that have happened in the past?
Yes. I mean, everyone says that. I don't really love to talk about it since, I don't know, it feels kind of weird, you know?
Sounds like bragging.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I can confirm that I have a very insane memory. I just remember almost all the stuff out of the game and in game, and it also helps just because, for example, I don't have to do, for example, a lot of notes when we are doing VOD reviews. It's just
right.
it's just one example of it. Like, I just remember almost everything that I have been told on what to improve, and I easily use it in the game. It's also one of the advantages. I have an ability to insta use what I like, the knowledge I've been gained from reviews and just simply playing the game. And memory definitely helps that. But other than that, I think I could use this skill more in CS rather than in Valorant.
Right.
It was like, it's also an interesting topic about like what happened if I will play CS more, or like
be interesting, right?
Or it's just like very interesting. What will happen? But it's not the time right now. I'm already in Valorant, and if I will consider about CS, I mean, I don't know what should happen, but it's obviously a funny topic to think about it, to discuss it too.
Right. What about one thing I would ask before we go to some let's talk about some of the results and stuff, is I would just ask this bigger overview question, which is, if people think about the skills you've just described and the way you think about the game, it feels to me like maybe I understand why in your career so far you haven't been the leader. You had people like Redgar and you have Boaster. These are some of the best in the world. Right. Would you think one day about Chronicle being the in-game leader? Do you think that's a role that you could do in the future? Would you like to do it?
I can think about it, but it's way too early to say that I'm going to be IGL. Right now, I'm practicing my second IGL skills. Like, I'm able to mid-call to create some basic early calls. While in the game right now, we are practicing it in FNATIC. Just because I'm the guy who analyzes what enemies can do right now against us in the round, and I'm just doing a small debrief to prepare the call for Jake right now. And I also have a very good leadership mentality. I think I can be a leader in the team because of the way how confident I am, and also, even though I was in individual sports, I still know how to be a proper leader in the like in
Team
the teams.
setup, right?
Yeah, and I know it, and I have also experience from others. I know how to do and what I don't need to do, but it's way too early to say too. Just because I don't have how can I say that? I think obviously it's way too early because of the age. I still want to continue to grow also as an individual player. It might be way too early for me to go to IGL, and also I think right now is just. I think I still trust obviously Jake. I think he's a very good IGL, and I don't need to be like like the in-game leader at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think we can easily be at top with him for next few years also.
Yes.
So that's the thing that also like kind of blocks me from being an IGL, because I still trust my IGL and I don't have to do some other stuff. It's just kind of weird, like thinking about like being an IGL when I already have an IGL in my roster.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah.
No, it's just more one of those questions for an interview.
I also have something in mind why I couldn't be IGL at the moment, but I can't really say it now because I for some reason don't remember, but I had some some moments why I couldn't. But I can't say it now.
Fair enough. What about this then? Let's actually ask about some of the people you played with. What was Redgar like as a leader? Who is this guy?
At some point he was inexperienced, because when he came into Gambit in 2020, he wasn't that experienced as IGL. He wasn't playing it that much. I think he even started to be IGL just this year, 2020.
Right.
And overall, he was improving. Sadly, he had some rough moments where like it was in question, will he be in the roster or not? But other than that, he was actually great. And when we are at our peak form, he was able to actually read the game properly, and we were at top with him, obviously. And we are big friends right now, also. So we talk with each other a lot. We're still big friends. Even though we had some conflicts in Gambit, like in-game ones, like when we were not agreeing with each other on some key moments about our game. But it's already in the past. And also, I think it helped us to be better persons today, just because that's how also you grow. Like you can't improve without conflicts. Otherwise, you're gonna be stagnating. So that's simply the team rule number one. I think sometimes you have to argue. Sometimes you have to question something, because otherwise it will be way too ideal. Yeah, I believe in that.
I would also say from my own experience, Chronicle, knowing people who are Russian, it just seems like, put it this way, I'll contrast it. So you have a Swedish player in your team. Swedish players are normally known to be a little bit, they don't want confrontation. They want to sort of like politely talk about what's going on, or maybe you just like, you talk privately so it's not in front of someone. It seems to me in esports, like the Russian players tend to be a bit more blunt. Like people want to, like you say, in a way, having an argument can solve a problem really quickly. You just get it done with now, and there's no talking behind people's backs or wondering what people are thinking. You just figure out what people think now, right? Was there some of that in Gambit?
Yes, I believe one of the big pros from Russian players, I would say, it's just like the way that how we can handle feedback, and like we can get even a rough one without being way too annoyed or sad about it. We can easily control it, and we can understand where we can improve and where we need to listen. Sometimes it might be not true just because of like how different mentality of different players is.
Sure.
But generally, it's very good. It's very good. In my experience with the European players right now, I feel that some people, or like sometimes, I'll just say sometimes, people can't really understand the feedback properly, or doing it way too rarely compared to, for example, me or just other people who I played with. And that's not obviously good. But I think it's something that they can actually improve on. But I believe also that it's just because some people doesn't have sports background.
Yeah, sure.
I think Europeans have almost the same mentality in sports also, that you have to have some rough moments.
Yes.
As I said, And in sports, when you have some coaches which are pretty much strict, you will definitely not dodge that stuff. I mean, there's probably no chance. Even if you're like the most loved person for the coach, you will still get some
for sure.
rough feedback. And it's just like how everything goes in sports. But in esports, there are so many kids who just came in from just sitting in front of computer for years, and they had no actual background in competitive stuff.
Yeah.
And they actually don't know how to be a proper professional, and that's what kind of ruins it for them. Yeah.
One thing I think a lot of people appreciated about Gambit, because I can tell you, and M3C, whatever they were called, had to be called later, was when this team came along, actually all the other teams and players that I would interview or talk to or do shows with, they always told me, like, this is the most innovative team, like, they're coming up with all the new stuff all the time. What I wanted to ask was, how much of that was, like, in the group of the Gambit players? Did everyone have some say and input things? Was it like, was a lot of it coming from Redgar? Was he having a lot of the say in the overview? Was the coach having an impact? What was kind of the setup that allowed this team to be so innovative?
I think the biggest impact was from our coach. I think everyone will confirm it. On the same level or slightly lower, it will be from IGL and Nuts. Redgar and Nuts, sorry. And after that, it will be different shadows. And I will be on the last place, but it actually makes sense because at that point, I didn't have any background, and people were thinking that I was inexperienced person at all, and I had almost zero respect in terms of how impactful I am in the making the team. So that was kind of one of the problems that I believe kind of ruined it for us. But I don't think I did quite well job on fixing it also, just because I fucked up in some moments too in there, just because I didn't do some weird stuff, but I was the guy who sometimes just did some dumb stuff in the game, and it caused the thing that people were thinking that my knowledge of the game or my game sense is pretty much based on random stuff or like doing some weird stuff, and like I obviously don't know that much, or I'm mostly wrong. And I don't say it's a fault of my teammates, it's also my fault, because like that's how I was at that point. But yeah, I didn't have that much impact on building the team. But yeah, it was just mostly Yang, I think. He like connected us, all of us, as a proper team with a proper synergy, and we just came in to the Europe with a great mentality, and we were all we were all at our peak as a team. Like no one were like falling down, or like I just say we were ready to win everyone. Yeah.
Another thing I think people actually appreciated a lot about Gambit was it didn't seem like this was a team that made hasty roster decisions. Like the same core of players was there from almost the beginning. And yeah, there was a couple at the very end of player changes. But aside from that, it was the same core basically for almost, a year and a half, 2 years? It was quite a long time. Yeah. Is there a reason why? Like, was there, like, I'm guessing the day you all met, you weren't all the best players in the world. So why did this core stay together, do you think? Was it a conscious decision to not make too many roster moves and just stick with what you had?
I think it's just the trust in each other. We just trusted each other in almost everything. Even like, for example, when we started to play, when we won the first Masters, not the Berlin one, it was like even the regional Masters.
Oh, the online one, right.
The online one. After that, we had a rough loss against one team where one of our players didn't perform really well. And for example, our org was questioning his position in the roster. Like they were actually thinking about replacing him, and we actually just stand up for him, and we say that just don't do this moves. Like we still believe in him. We will do all the job we need. We will win the tournaments with him, and no need to worry about it now. And at the same time, I believe that it kind of ruined it for us too, just because sometimes some changes could be a little bit more much earlier than we did it at the end. But it's already happened. So It's a sad truth, but I think sometimes we believed in each other too much, and it ruined the next year for us,
Right.
the 2022, and that's why we didn't really succeed in that particular year.
Right, obviously, the early period in Gambit, everything was online. There were no lands to qualify to. And as you say, VCT even began as separate regions, right? When you were just in CIS region, even when you became the top team there, the obvious question I have is, I'm sure in scrims you must have scrimmed European teams, but it's different to play officials from scrims. When you were on top in CIS, did you actually know, like, we might actually be the overall best team in Valorant? Did you have a sense of this? How strong was CIS at the time, do you think?
It wasn't strong, and we were all thinking that we are not that strong,
right,
for actually playing in Europe, just because we also played some tier 3, tier 4 tournaments at that point, and yeah, we were winning against some like top 10 teams in Europe there, but we didn't think it was that important or that impactful for us. And also, when we just came into the European tournaments after winning the CIS ones, it wasn't that great experience because we were losing. Like I think when we just came in at the stage 2, we lost instantly to FPX, and that's where we thought that we are not that great, even though everyone was thinking that they're like the best team at that point. But still, we lost to them, then it doesn't mean that we are good. But I don't know what actually changed, or like how that happened that at the end we started to grow up to improve such rapidly. Coming to the next tournaments, we were just already destroying almost everyone. Before Masters Berlin, we also didn't really perform well, but we did a great run in the lower bracket. That's where we started to believe that we are probably one of the greatest in Europe also. But still, I don't think it was enough for us to think that we are really great and we are the best players in the world to stop improving, for example.
When you guys came to this first big LAN, the Masters Berlin one that you talk about, obviously famously your team won in impressive fashion and everyone was bigging you up as the top team. I actually want to ask, just before this period, around the time when you were already getting to the higher up in Europe like we're talking about, when you would see, obviously the original dominant team in Valorant was Sentinels from North America, but they were playing all the way over in North America. You can't scrim them, you can only watch VODs, there's not even demos obviously in this game. What did you actually think of their style? Because I would say they were a pretty hard contrast to Gambit, right? They were playing, it looked like, very individualistically and playing off skill, like people like Tens just popping off. Like, did you actually think that that was a valid way to play Valorant? What do you think of them back then?
I didn't believe in their success, to be honest. I think that run on Reykjavik, yes, in some way it's impressive. Obviously, they didn't lose any map, and also they were just on a level ahead of everyone at that point. But everything just changed also rapidly at that point because at that point in the game, everyone was just improving very fast because everyone was trying to transfer their experience from other games. They were trying to use it, and sometimes it was successful, sometimes it's not. And also the amount of newcomers was also like coming in, just because the start of Valorant was full of regex is not the right word to say that, but it's also true. Like a lot of people coming from different disciplines, and obviously, like if most of them weren't that great. And when actual people who started to play Valorant as their first esports discipline,
right,
and also like who was investing much more time than them, they will start to improve and actually be spotted. And we were kind of like a team of that, even though like I think we had almost every player from CS. Like Redgar was playing in CS. He have a HLTV page. Nats was playing in tier 3 just before Valorant release. He was in some tier 3 stack. Defo and Shadows were also both CS players. Shadows even had a weird background of getting a VAC ban.
All right,
before.
okay.
He was Naumov, and he was actually playing with Jame. Like he was playing with that old Avantgarde roster, and just because they found an account with his VAC ban, he couldn't play after that.
The major stuff,
with the previous rules, because now I remember you have like
Because
have
of
a, like,
Yampi, it got
5-year
changed
ban.
now. Yes, you can,
Now
you
you
can
now
come
have
back
5-year
now in
ban.
theory. Yes, you're right.
Yes, but at that point he couldn't come back, and obviously he also a CS player, and just overall like everyone except for me was a CS player, but still they were all kind of young kids. They didn't prove anything in CS. They weren't kind of rejects from there. They were just like they just decided to switch. They thought that it might be a better idea, and they started to improve. They started to play a lot more than every other, and that's how they improved. And also, I think I kind of lost the question a little bit, but
It was more about originally how different Sentinels played.
the Sentinels, yeah. And I think Sentinels after the character they just stopped improving, and when everyone just reached them, like they just start instantly losing, and like they didn't really play well. Their first loss was already on Masters Berlin to G2, who weren't great. Like I just remember this roster seal. I do believe it wasn't great at all, and if they lost to them, it meant that everything is going wrong, and even the coach signing didn't help them. And I still believe that this roster wasn't that great, even though they achieved like first international win. Yeah, achievements wise, it was very good, but I don't believe that it was actually that great as people think. I do believe that some different runs are actually much better than this one, even though like most any other of them, like almost every team in the event like lost at least one map, or they weren't like such a dominant fashion. Maybe the closest one will be our Masters Tokyo one, but I don't think it's also the greatest. I think lock-in one was more impressive for me, but it's another topic to talk about. But yeah, I don't think Sentinels were that great.
When you came then to this Berlin event, this is already when you'd won the EMEA, so online you've already shown you can beat the top teams. Did you actually believe we should win this tournament? We should win this LAN?
I think some people, yes, could think about it. For me particularly, I didn't think about winning. I was thinking about experience. For me, almost on every event, just my main goal is not about the winning the event, because I feel that when you're focusing way too much on trying to win, sometimes you're forgetting to think about how to win. Like you're forgetting about the ways.
Right.
You're just starting to think that you need to win, and it just ruins your mind pretty easily. And I just come to almost every tournament in my career just to think that I need to get as much experience as possible. Try not to lose, obviously. I always try my best, and after that you'll see how it will go. And in Masters Berlin, also, like when we just started to play, we weren't confident will we qualify to champs or not. And I think at that point we were pretty much nervous, because Masters Berlin was quite important tournament for this one, because you will get a lot of points to qualify. But when we already qualified to champions, I felt like everyone lost their stress about the tournament, and everyone just started to play their game. And that's how we started to play much better. Because at the start of Masters Berlin, we lost to 100 Thieves in a very weird comeback. We could actually win them, but because of the stress, we lost. And yeah, just like I believe when you have less stress, you perform much better. I mean, everyone knows it, but not that many people actually try to make themselves less stressed.
In the final, the NV team you played is basically the Optic team from the next year that had all that success. Like this is like a reasonably close final. Like it was like the first maps are back and forth. What did you think of that team at this time? Like could they have beaten you? Was it a good final?
I thought when they lost Heaven to us, I thought they are trolling, and they are done. Right. The thing is, at that point, everyone knew that Heaven is our permaban map. And people were picking it against us just because it was best of 5, and we didn't have that much maps in the game.
Right.
And also, there were some rules about it. But overall, people were trying to pick Heaven against us when we didn't even practice it at least once, and they were all losing it to us. I was like thinking, how you are managing to do that? How bad you are to lose a map, prepared map, to a team who never played it. it still comes to my mind. How is it possible? Like how you're still losing that? And when Optic did the same stuff, they picked Heaven against us. Same like Ace and Ascent at that point. Same as I think also another team against us. I think I don't remember who, but overall, again, Ace and did this against us. They lost. Optic did this against us, and they also lost. And after that, I was thinking there is no chance we can lose this tournament or lose to them, just because like if they're losing our worst map to us, we will definitely be better. And I felt just only like that. Other maps were slightly easier. Maybe Bind was hard, but I still remember I performed really well there. I was just destroying them. And overall, the finals went pretty much great for me there.
I notice in Valorant, it does feel like whoever the number one team is never wins champions. The champions is always like, the dark horse comes through and wins it at the end and has an epic run. Should Gambit have won this champions? Should you? I mean, people will say they think Ascend was like cNed was going harm. It was like a one-off. Obviously, they didn't keep it up themselves. Should Gambit have been the champions winners, do you think?
I mean, people think I'm delusional, obviously, because that's how it works, because I was in that team, and yeah, I think we could actually win, and we deserved it more. We were just one round away to actually win the tournament, and it was very unlucky. It's just like again, it's these tactical shooters. Sometimes it's all about timings, and sometimes just small random stuff that happens, just 1 millisecond away, and you can lose or win. And at this point, it happened that we lost. And I think it wasn't deserved because I think with Ascent at that point had a lot of scandals how they were going through this stage because they had a scandal with Brazilian team Vivo KD because they had to replay the match because of one bug, even though Vivo KD I think at that point actually fucked up. They just didn't read the rules. At the same time, they had also not the hardest bracket on the tournament, and also again we were just like one round away from winning, and that was very sad. I still feel like sometimes just very unfortunate.
Have you replayed it in your mind, thinking back on it?
It's still it still stings.
Sure.
And obviously I really want to win a champs one time, but I just know I have a lot of chances now. I believe that I'm obviously still very, very strong, and I have a lot of opportunities, and I have a lot of more years. And even if I wouldn't win champions in this 10 or 15 or 20 years, whatever the number is, I'm still fine with what I'm doing now. And I believe that if I'll continue to do the same, I will be happy with that. Obviously, to have a full set of trophies, like all the types of it, will be insanely good. Just to show that I achieved pretty much a lot, much more than almost anyone else. But it's just a very hard path. You have to sacrifice a lot, and even right now, I'm sacrificing a lot of stuff to be on this level, just because how hard it is. We have hard times in our team. And I obviously spend a lot of time to improve it, to change it. And it's not always comes really great, but I'm fine with it, to be honest. I'm fine.
Right, this was obviously the tournament that made cNed a massive name in Valorant. What was it like to play against Prime cNed? What was he like?
He was strong. I felt especially how Jet was working at that point, it was very annoying. He could leave almost every spot in the game, with just one dash. He could take almost every off angle, and it was annoying. And he also was on a peak of his individual form. He was hitting insane shots with op, and that was pretty much hard. That's why I think sometimes the Valorant at that point was slightly harder, just because you didn't have that much util or knowledge how to clear some people in the game. And yeah, that was pretty much hard. But I do believe at the same point, Defo had the same thing. He could easily kill a lot of people and catch a lot of entries just because how overpowered Jet and the Operator was at that point. So yeah.
By the way, one thing I want to ask is, I know a thing that's quite unique about Valorant is obviously there isn't as many LAN tournaments to play at compared to something like Counter-Strike, where in Counter-Strike, if you're in a top team, I mean, in 6 months, you could go to like 7 LANs or something, or 5 LANs or something. You can get quite a lot of experience. Like, I imagine if you hadn't got the same background of another esport, like, put it this way, in this story we're telling now, this is like your second LAN or something. Like, you haven't even got to play that many LANs in your whole career.
Yeah.
Has it taken a while to feel like you're experienced and comfortable on LAN?
I didn't feel any pressure of that. Like, there was like few key points on that. First, we didn't have any crowd there, which
Oh yes, I forgot about
at some point maybe helped us, maybe didn't. But we already had a pretty much good fan base. And second thing, I had a background again in sports where I had to participate on stage. I was participating in championships of my country. And I had a lot of people watching exactly me, maybe, or like watching some my opponents swimming, and it's quite different, but at the same time it's quite similar. You can easily transfer this feeling from that stage to this one, just because like when you actually start to play the game, you will forget about being stressed. Like you stop thinking about like, oh my god, the match, or like, yeah, the match starts soon, what I need to do, am I ready or not? Like you're not thinking about it in the game, you're already thinking about how to win the game. You can't really do that, and after that you are not stressed. You just feel that you need to win the game, and that's it. It's like for me in swimming, when I started to swim, like all my worries just faded away. Like I didn't think about anything else but just how to swim faster. And same was in Valorant. When I started to play the game, I was thinking how to win this round, and that's it.
I saw when I was doing some research that there was actually some people after this time, the end of Champions 2021, early 2022, some people were saying Chronicle is the best Valorant player. Was that fair? Do you think could you have been the best player at that time? What do you think? And they did it like from an all-round perspective, like you can clutch, you can play agents, everything.
Stats wise, they could say, yeah, I'm the best, but I don't think it was the best version of me, and that wasn't my prime at all. And also, like, I didn't confirm with the win. Like, I had the best stat of the tournament, like, even on my role, but it still wasn't enough. And at that point, it was quite crazy that the guy who was playing on Initiator was doing better stunts than everyone else, especially Duellists, which were overpowered. But I think right now, people should understand that if they will look at the the stats of almost every tournament, they will see that many top scorers right now is Sentinels and Initiators info gatherers like Sova and Fates. It's just like how easy to farm stats, I would say, at some point. Like it's actually easy to be good on this agency. Yeah, you have to understand it. You have to use your util properly. It's not the easiest. It's not the easiest agent, but still, you have to know your agent, and after that, it makes you such an insane player that in eyes of the crowd, in eyes of the community, you look like a god. And I feel like that was the same in 2021. And right now, it's still, I feel that initiators are very strong in terms of like when you're playing on Sova and Fate, they're so strong. They're very strong. It's like Sova, one of the first agents, literally the first agent of the game, 4 years, and it's still the same meta. Like Sova is still so good. They definitely mean something. And it's really easy to play on it when you know how to play, obviously. It's like just so easy to kill people, so easy to farm the stats. But it's also about like how impactful you are for the team. And that's the other question. I don't think I was that impactful for the team game sense wise in 2021. I was shooting very good. Like I had so many crazy moments where I was just like doing insane aces, just almost 1 versus 5. But it's still not the same as people right now carrying with Sova. And about my prime or the best Chronicle, best player, I feel right now I'm obviously a much better version because like it's definitely if you like compare like different years, obviously you can see the improvement. But also I believe that right now I'm much more stronger than before, and like I'm very confident in in what I do literally. Like I even became again in some way secondary AGL. I started to play on so many roles. It's actually like I have an invisible wall of actually what I can't play.
Okay.
And also like I think almost every player who I played with respect me a lot just because they know that I almost have like good relationships with everyone in esports. Like as a teammate, I feel that. I feel that my team is happier with me right now, and I know that's when the prime comes. When everyone's just happy with me, then that's the prime. 2021 wasn't my prime.
As you say, obviously, Sova as an agent has been viable for pretty much the entire time. It's one of the main ones that will always be in the game. Even so, though, it does seem like you have a particular affinity towards this agent, right? What do you like about? What do you think you're so good at on this particular one? What does it allow you to do?
I mean, the thing is, the most overpowered util is his recon, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. Shock darts, overpowered util. You can do a lot of damage out of almost nothing. You can combine it with some other util, and you can just do even twice more impact as usual. Ult is crazy. I think it's one of the strongest ults in the game. You can damage, you can gain some info with it, even like when you're just clearing with ult, you just know probably there is no one there. And also just like, again, you can combine with other util, it's become even twice stronger again. Drone is also ultimate clearing util. It's just like every util of this agent is so crazy, it's just hard to imagine how it's still possible in 2024 that he's still the meta. But yeah, I mean, it's just again in the right hands, it's just overpowered. Like you can do damage, you can do info you can use just for yourself or for your teammates. It's not like with initiator flashes. Like when it's hard sometimes to use it for yourself, but actually in this role, you can use your util even for yourself, and that will be very good, especially in clutches. In clutches, it's also very, very strong. And I don't know, like it's just crazy how good this agent is.
The other one I always associate with you is obviously Breach, because it feels like any time it's possible for that to be played, Chronicle's going to find a way to pick it. What do you think of this agent?
I think Breach is also one of my best players, and also it's also good because I actually play chess in some way. The thing is, on Breach you have to watch minimap a lot, like for using your util, and sometimes you need to have multi-focus, multitasking on many stuff to actually analyze what and how you can use it. Sometimes you have to go up out of your scripts and strats and use the util in some unusual way. And that's where Breach comes in, because he have a cross-map util sometimes, like his stun, and it's very crazy. And I remember I won a lot of rounds for my team and just simply changing it because I just simply swapped it. And at this point in the game, not that many Breach players can actually do that, and it's kind of weird, but it's true. And that's why I'm still very good on it, just because I'm able to adapt in this way. So yeah, I mean, I really like the Breach. I'm not playing it right now, or maybe I'm playing, who knows, maybe the next matches I'll show it, but yeah, it just, I slightly miss it, but let's see it's also annoying, you know why? He's not the greatest flasher in the game. Like there is some other agents that are also better than him, especially on some maps, and that's also sad. But I feel like maybe 1 or 2 buffs for him will be very good, because right now it feels he's not as strong as he could be.
Right, when the team, it's funny that the time when you were forced to beat M3C instead of Gambit, also in a way is sort of convenient because that team wasn't as good. Like Gambit was really awesome, was the best team in the world. M3C, obviously people know it was slightly a level below. Like I would say it this way, Chronicle, if people went back that season, the real problem is you're always like this far from qualifying. Like you almost made it to the Masters event. You almost made it in the last chance qualifier to go, you never quite got there. So you touched on it maybe earlier when you implied maybe the team should have been more aggressive with roster moves or you shouldn't have stuck together. What do you think went wrong this year? Because it's not like it was a terrible year still. You were still just that far away, you know. You were in the matches. These were close games.
Different reasons. I'll try to go shortly just because explaining it will be very hard. But simply again, I think with roster moves, we were quite late. I think we did it pretty badly. Second thing, because we played with each other so much, you actually sometimes have to not have to. You actually have more conflicts than before, just because the way how you know each other, you know some points where you can actually trigger something in your. You know,
to piss the other guy off. Right?
You know how to piss your guy off,
sure.
And also sometimes you're just forgetting about this barrier when you can actually when you actually need to stop, and that's where the conflicts start to have they were just snowballing, I would say, and it was just bigger and bigger and bigger, and at some point we weren't really good friends. We had a lot of conflicts between each other. At some point, I would say we even have groups, which is also very bad for teams. Like you are not as a whole. You split up to some few groups, and this is weird. When you have few people there and few people there, you're not communicating between each other, or you're communicating pretty badly, and that's what also ruins the team, and also I think ruined us a little bit. Also, individually, some people were late to actually understand that they're not doing a great job, or they fucked up. Like they weren't ready to accept that they're doing not that great, and that's why we also just fell off, I would say. And yeah, it's just I think these three main reasons just fucked up us really hard.
Before I ask you a bit about FNATIC, let me ask about one more of the players from Gambit, since it's just an appropriate time. So the player Nats is obviously a big name still, obviously from his time in Team Liquid and all that jazz, and everyone knows him. But I think the interesting thing about this player is, I would say most people, if they remember back in his prime, was when he was on the Omen and some of the really interesting smoke type stuff he was doing. He seemed like he had his own approach to that particular agent, right? Who is this guy? How do you describe Nats?
I mean, Nats wasn't playing on Omen. He was playing on Viper. I will just... Viper and the Cypher. He wasn't playing on Omen. Omen was Redgar and barely me. I don't remember.
Oh, I've got the agent mixed up then. I mean the one where he was doing that. What was the one where he would take the smoke and put it in the ground or whatever? What was that one?
Was
that Viper maybe I'm thinking of?
Yeah, Viper and Cypher.
Right.
Cypher is right now most popular one just because, he's still hyping on it. But yeah, I think he's geeky in that way. He always loves to find something new, something unusual. He always have a lot of setups for almost everything. I remember from the times, he even had a big Excel table with all his setups for example, for particular map like Split, and he was just using all of them. And he had a memory of that. He was trying to use all this stuff, and that's how he was winning. He's a very smart person. He's very smart. He's very intelligent, and he uses that in the game. He might not be that great individually. He's not aiming like a god or hitting sometimes very insane shots, but he's very smart. He can outplay people. That also played him in a bad way. Just because at some point of his career, people start to anti-strat him, and they started to be ready for all his moves.
Right.
And at some point, he couldn't do as much as he was doing before. But I still think he's a very good player. And at that point, he was so good just because how passionate he was about just preparing for his next game, I would say.
Everyone needs a support network, and mine is, of course, my Patreon community, the Scrominati, who in many ways, they're the Sonny to my Cher, saying, I got you, babe. So this video and all the others on my channel were kindly supported by the following names: Ahmed Haju, Mac Pugnaccio Rakula, Adam Tomlin, Animosity, Jensen Go, Tosh, Toucan, and you know it. Jerky's Minion, my main man, always going to be referenced, one of the best patrons of all time. Would you like to ask a question in my AMA? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest to say on my channel? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming Reflections and Talk to Thorin interviews are. Maybe you want to do one of those long discussions where you get to set the topics we talk about. Well, if any of these or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Scluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.